What's going on, everybody? KKamm here, and in today's video I'm going to finally deliver on the Black Ops 4 video I meant to make a while back. Now again, videos like these aren't meant to blow up and get views at all, but are rather intended to be on my channel as a way to organize a lot of my thoughts and talk in a small podcast-like format with a gaming twist, and is something I can look back on to remember a time in my life whenever I reminisce at any point in the future. But anyways, the gameplay in this video is actually a nice hardpoint gameplay I got from the alpha, which I had a ton of fun with, and I'm super excited to play the beta coming up next weekend. But anyways, to start it off, the main Black Ops 4 roster that I had started off in World War II, where it was myself, Brandon, or Busy, which I'm pretty sure he's in this gameplay that I'm showing right now. But it was us two and the twins from my last video as a team of 4 before they announced it would be 5v5. And then we didn't end up finding a fifth until like November or so, about a month after Black Ops 4 released, when we found Rhetoric, or I'm just going to call him Nick for the sake of the video, from one of Blake's tweets. And we started off pretty well, and we were competing for points in our first 2K literally like 5 days after, 5 days after our first night of scrims. But I mean, after that, we never really improved beyond our first couple of weeks. And myself and Nick specifically had a lot of problems with each other because we both had very opposite personalities, where I'm much more reserved and he's a lot more aggressive and vulgar, which came off as super toxic to me, especially when he'd go to game chat every lobby just talking trash and about every scrim, when I personally wanted our team to come off as a more professional personality, and I wanted to make more allies in the community, because that is one of the most important things to do in such a who knows who community like Call of Duty is. And not only us two, but the twins would yell at each other at least twice a night, and they'd fight a lot and always argue, and honestly they probably argued more than Nick and I argued. The only thing is, whenever Nick and I would argue, it would just be like an explosion pretty much, instead of just this petty arguing that the twins would do. But I honestly just felt like the whole team didn't fit personality wise, aside from Nick and Brandon, because I feel like they kind of have that carefree personality that with each other, where it's just like just kind of going with the flow, doing whatever. But in general, it felt like I looked at practice a lot different than Nick and Brandon did. They seemed like they were only playing for fun with their friends as a pastime, while I felt like I genuinely cared more about trying to develop a competitor's mindset as a team. And on top of that, we had a problem with Brandon not wanting to play the game at all, let alone playing or trying to improve when we weren't scrimming. He's a guy that could have been a superstar in any mid-tier AM team if he actually tried or cared, and Nick and I both said that several times. Managing egos was definitely a massive problem on the team too. I felt like I was far and away the best player on the team, that we should have developed a system based around my idea of how I wanted to play, but nobody was willing to really give anybody praise over themselves for the sake of being on the same page with each other. And aside from my own ego, everybody only looked at scoreboards, really. Brandon would praise whoever was at the top. The twins would constantly make dumb plays and chase kills in the intention of topping the other on the stat sheet so they could say they were better than the other. Nick would take it super personal anytime someone tried telling him what to do, and I'd take it personal anytime Nick would jokingly talk trash to me. And Nick would also, if you were bottom of the scoreboard, he would call you out too. So yeah, stats were definitely a little too much of a priority, I'd say. But anyways, with our egos, it made me feel like they wouldn't be accepting of me taking over a leadership role. And whenever I tried to take it over, nobody would really listen to me. I definitely had a confidence issue personally. But I'd send essays into the group chat that Ben wasn't even in, because he refused to talk to any of us aside from Blake outside of scrims. And I'd be pointing out what we needed to do differently on a map, and nobody would respond at all. Not even just on a map, but I'd be talking about what we needed to do as a team. Like maybe we needed to develop a system. Maybe we needed to really find our identity. We needed to find out, we needed to decide who's going to be our leader, who's going to, be what for us as far as, roles go outside of just who runs a sub, who runs a Maddox, who runs an AR. But then, we'd go into scrims the next day, and Brandon would join the Discord, and he'd be like, yo, what was good with this guy last night? And everybody else would continue to do the exact same thing that I'd talk about needing to fix in the group chat. Nobody would even read or listen to what I had to say, it felt like. I definitely say that the conditions of our relationships made it tougher for me to enter that flow state of mind, where you're just, basically, for those of you who don't know exactly what that is, it's just being in the zone, that mindset that you're in, the way that you feel when you're in the zone. If you've played anything competitively, you probably know what I'm talking about. But outside of our relationship problems, our roles didn't even fit, honestly. We started with Nick on a sub before realizing he was way too slow to play second sub behind my entry, when I've been a fairly aggressive sub. I mean, I'm not the most aggressive, but compared to most subs in the amateur scene, I'm definitely one of the more aggressive ones. And we ended up moving him to main, and then we had Frosty, or Ben, on main, and we switched him to a Maddox to let Nick play main, but he didn't contribute nearly as much after switching to a Maddox. Ben didn't, that is. And then we started Brandon on a Maddox, and then switched him over to the second sub because him and I worked well in the game, have worked well in game in the past, specifically World War II and Ghost. And I'm sure it's likely from all the wagers that we played together in the 1.5 years prior. But I just feel like we don't work together as perfectly as Huntsman and I did, but I do feel like Brandon and I really do kind of play off each other as subs because we have a very similar pace. But eventually we found out that he literally couldn't slide cancel, so we had to move him back to a Maddox in place of Blake, or Blake Shifty for those who know him by a different name. And then ultimately decided that he was best fit for a main, which screwed us because his pace didn't fit with a main. So we had a massive role struggle within the team that led to us not having that impactful second sub that all the top teams in 5v5 had. I mean, specifically look at 100 Thieves, United, etc. You know, if you don't have a second sub, you're going to struggle. Unless, you know, you just develop some crazy, or Scump even. But, you know, you have to have some crazy good supports in order to find success. You can't just have a good entry like Apathy and just expect to excel just off that. But yeah, so we had I think, aside from just that role struggle, in the 3 months we teamed, we legitimately went over strats like once. And the first map that we went over, and that we tried to go over, the twins were screaming at each other. And then by the third map, actually it was literally like second hill, we were going over hardpoint. We got the first hill, you know, we kind of talked about how we wanted to set up on that. We got to the second hill, and the twins were just screaming at each other because they didn't agree on how we should set up, if, you know, we could have any setup in the world that we wanted. And then by the time we got to third map, Ben got so mad at Blake, or his brother for those of you who couldn't catch on by now, that he literally got off for the night before even scrimming. And we never once went over the rest of the maps, any of the control maps, and we never once went over S&D, which really was a struggle. What made it worse was that with Nick being mountain time, he was 2 hours behind me, and he'd work late, so he'd get on at like 12:30 my time, and at that point you're finding maybe one scrim with that, and then you add in pro points, you're playing maybe a pro point a night, and I think you had to get 2 in Black Ops 4 if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was just 1, I don't remember. Because I think, actually no, I think we only had to do 1 5 days a week or something like that. But yeah, so this all resulted in us playing a much different game than each other, and that got exposed later in the year. I think honestly, we really didn't have anybody to make those calls of what play we're gonna make, you know, what setup we want to use. We were just kind of all our comms were horrible. We didn't have, and then we'd kind of complain after a map and be like, why would you make this play? Why would you not make this play? When instead, I think throughout the game, we should have just been making calls. We should have had an IGL that would make these calls as well. And I think that's one of our big problems right there. But anyways, in February then, Brandon ended up getting a job that gave him a second shift schedule, so he couldn't even team anymore at the time. And then Nick ended up dipping to go join a different team of 4 that we were scrimming. We were basically quote-unquote scrim buddies with them throughout the year. And so he ended up joining them as they dropped their 5th. And then eventually, us 4 minus Ben, or Frosty, got back together and teamed with someone from a team that I thought played more properly. Actually, it was from the team that Nick went to join. It was from a team that I thought played more properly and was far more well-structured than us. But then from my viewpoint, Nick, Blake, and Brandon played very selfish and basically played for stats with ARs, while our 5th, I'll call him Zach for the sake of the video, it was Zach Sloths. Him and I were playing spawns by ourselves as the 2 sub players of the team, and in Black Ops 4 that's a huge problem. You know, you want your SOG players to really kind of make the impact on a break, or you know, you want them holding more close angles. Sure, you could have them still play spawns every once in a while, but you don't want your 2 SOGs holding spawns. You want one of them being able to push out the front of the hill, and then maybe one either helping like on a side angle of hill, or maybe help on spawns too. But yeah, so, and then Brandon and Nick would talk tons of trash to our fifth because he didn't have the stats that they did. I think Brandon was a lot more passive aggressive about this, but Nick would literally just, if he didn't have like a high amount of damage, or if his KD was horrible, then Nick would come at him. And obviously you got to know that KD doesn't show enough. The stat sheets in general don't show enough because there's so much that goes into it. And so expectedly, that team ended up blowing up. And after a summer full of shuffling rosters, pretty much, Nick and I got into a huge fight. It was like around the beginning of my semester at school. But we got into a huge fight, and then we wouldn't talk to each other for months after. And in Modern Warfare, I started out with Blake, Brandon, and 2 others, and we played the first 2K. I got absolutely costed in first round. I'm talking like I dropped 47 in a hardpoint just to win a single map, and then we didn't win a single map after that, and we got first rounded. And it was like the first time I'd ever been first rounded in a 2K. And then after that, Blake left, and I didn't have the desire to find another team for the rest of MW. And then fast forward to about the end of spring 2020, and Nick, Brandon, and I got into CS again together. And Nick and I ended up becoming better friends throughout all of it. And so I think just having us in a competitive environment, I think that's where you really see the mesh there kind of boil up. But I think, you just put us in a casual environment where we're just chilling, just playing games. I think we can be friends. But as of now, us 3 and Blake are all still good friends and still use a group chat between the 4 of us. And as for me, I'm 100% playing again in Cold War, but I don't expect that Nick's playing again. I think he's too hooked on League right now, and he didn't even play the Alpha. And I'm not sure about Blake. I don't know what his plans are. I'm pretty sure Brandon is. He might be, but I guess I'm going to have to wait closer to release day to see what the plan is there. I'm sure we're going to be playing this beta together too. But anyways, pretty much over the next month, I have a lot of work to do to try and put together a team that I feel will be able to work well together both in and out of game. And so that's my situation going into Cold War, and I'm just happy to have finally caught up on videos and can go back to making videos that aren't the repetitive. This is what I've been up to, gameplay commentary. I expect to get back into streaming soon as well. I just got to figure out what I want to stream. And I'm sure I'll probably stream Cold War a ton as well, even if it's not going to grow my channel. Just I kind of look back at Black Ops 4 and I see, wow, I really don't have anything recorded from this to look back on. And I think that's kind of something I want to change with Cold War. But yeah, so hopefully YouTube videos can follow after it. But it's been very tough to find the motivation to make videos when there really isn't any incentive to making the videos, or at least the videos that I want to make at this point. But I suppose that's like a topic for another video anyways. Again, if you like the video, please click the like button. Comment if you have any comments. Subscribe for more random content, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Cold War. Goodbye.